become dependent on our cars, don't we? We use our cars to go to work, to go to the store, to do all kinds of different things. We do our basic routines, our daily routines, using our cars. We wake up at a certain time, we follow our breakfast routine, whatever that might be. We pack our things and we get into our cars and we go. Now, when that routine is interrupted, we might be thrown for a loop. Imagine your car is in the shop and you decide that you're going to walk that day. Perhaps you walk the same route that you would normally drive. You're not in a rush. Instead, you have time to enjoy that walk. And as you walk around, you notice things now that you might not have noticed from the seat of your car. Maybe you walk around the block and you notice a moving truck in a driveway where a young couple is moving into their first home. A few houses down, you notice there's a dilapidated basketball hoop, rusted on the side of a driveway, where once energetic youth have now grown up and moved out. Maybe a few houses away, you notice a ramp going up to the front steps, to a house where someone in a family needs just a little extra assistance. Intentionally slowing down and observing the world around you opens your eyes to see the world in a different way, a world that you rarely see, even in your own neighborhood, that you see each and every day. Many of you might be familiar with the singer David Byrne. He was the lead singer of the Talking Heads, you know, the guy with the suit and the sick dance moves, who once in a lifetime was burning down the house. You know that, David Byrne? He now has a successful solo career, and he's a multimedia artist as well. But starting in the 1980s, his principal means of transportation in New York City has been riding a bike. You see him here in a picture with one of the bike stands that he created for New York City. In the preface to his book, Bicycle Diaries, he says this. He says the choice was initially made out of convenience rather than political motivation to ride his bike, but more cities that he saw from his bicycle, the more he became hooked on this mode of transport and the sense of liberation and exhilaration and connection that it provided. From this point of view, from his bike seat, became the panoramic view, the window to an urban life, a magical way of opening one's eyes to the inner workings and rhythms of a city's geography and population. After discovering the invention of a folding bike, as he would go on tour, he would bring his bike with him. And wherever his adventures brought him, he would hear rhythms. He would meet people. While he was in Buenos Aires, Berlin, Istanbul, Sydney, and throughout the United States. He says that he prefers to ride his bike because it allows him to hear the sounds of neighborhoods, to smell the foods emanating from houses, and to meet people he never had a chance to meet before. By intentionally slowing down and noticing the world around him, he feels more connected and part of the world. When I was a youth leader outside of Princeton, New Jersey, we prepared overnight bags for the homeless as part of a mission opportunity with the kids. And as we were packing the bags one day, one of the adult leaders asked, "Where are we taking these? Because there aren't any homeless in Princeton." I know. Ugh. Now, granted, Princeton is a very affluent community, but there were places where people without a place to call home lived and survived, and mostly out of sight. I invited the adult leader to help distribute some of the bags that week. And in small wooded areas near the mall, along pathways that cut through the community, and off the roadside just beyond sight of the cars that would zoom by, we met individuals who gratefully accepted gifts of food and personal items that hopefully made their day just a little better than the day before. For the two of us, it was not until we slowed down, that we took intentional time and allowed our hearts to be open to compassion, that we were able to meet those on the edges and gates of our own community. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus offers a number of parables. Listening to these are his disciples and others, along with the legal experts and the Pharisees, whom the author of Luke describes as lovers of money. That term, lovers of money, doesn't necessarily mean that they were wealthy, but that they were a person who would neglect the poor for the sake of their own social status. Among the parables that Jesus offers in this section of Luke are the parable of the great dinner, the parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost coin, the parable of the prodigal and his son, the parable of the dishonest manager, which Lauren preached on last week. And now Jesus comes to this parable. He sees the Pharisees, some who have neglected the poor for their own status, along with his disciples and others, and he offers the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Here, Luke is challenging an incorrect interpretation of the law and the prophets, which promoted the fact, or not the fact, but the idea that wealth and prosperity came to those who were obedient to God, and struggle and hardship would come to those who did not follow God's ways. We struggle with this today as people try to promote a prosperity gospel. So the main characters that are highlighted in the parable are the rich man, Lazarus, and Abraham. The rich man is dressed in fine clothes. He was dressed in purple and in fine linen. Purple was the color of political power, of privilege and influence. So this man is a known person in the community. He would have had importance. So how does he feast? He feasts sumptuously every day. Every day. If you were to feast sumptuously, what foods would you be eating? What foods would you eat if you ate sumptuously? Lobster. Food? Good food? Yeah. Fruit. Lobster and fruit. Vegetables. Tiramisu. Steak. So sumptuously. Think about a man who's feeding sumptuously every day on lobster and fruit and steak and vegetables, all kinds of things, and tiramisu. So this rich man ate sumptuously every day. His table was filled with all these good things. He is a man of great importance in the world. Now, as they heard this, the Pharisees might have thought that Jesus was telling them that this man was in favor with God. He had everything. And that's where the author turns the story on its head. Because the rich man ignores the poor man who is laying at the gate, just waiting for scraps of this sumptuousness to fall from the table. The rich man would have seen Lazarus day after day. He was at the gate. But the rich man does not have compassion on him. But he considers himself better than Lazarus. Now, you might have noticed that the only person in the parable that does not have a name is the rich man. He's nameless throughout the entire parable. The poor man laying at the gate does have a name. Jesus gives him the name of Lazarus. It's a derivation of the name Eleazar, which means God has helped. Now, this would have caused the Pharisees to pay attention. Because here's a man who is begging and near death. The dogs come and lick the wounds. To those that are listening to Jesus, Lazarus would not sound like someone who was helped by God. But he is a representative of the poor, and God has a special concern and priority for the poor and marginalized in society. This is supported all through Scripture. Exodus 23:10 proclaims a Sabbath year of harvest for the poor in order that the poor can eat. Leviticus 19 is the instruction to leave the edges of the field for gleaning. And today, several people plant extra plants in their gardens so that the fruit from their gardens might be shared with those who are hungry. Isaiah 58 declares, "Is this not the fast that I chose, said the Lord, to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them and not hide yourself from your own kin? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer you, and you shall cry for help, and he will say, 'Here I am.'" The words from Matthew 25 echo these words from the prophet Isaiah. And to learn more about Matthew 25, you should go to adult education between the services. In the parable that we hear, both men die. The rich man was buried, but the poor man was carried up into heaven by the angels to be with Abraham. In first century Judaism, Abraham is considered the patron saint of hospitality. So Lazarus, being situated by Abraham's side, would denote a place of great honor. By including this detail, Jesus also suggests that the eschatological feast that everyone is waiting for has already begun. The rich man, on the other hand, is below in Hades. He's being tormented, and he calls out to Abraham. But even in Hades, this man thinks he's better than Lazarus, and he can have control over him. Now, as a side note, I want to point out some echoes of possible redemption that we hear in this parable. In the conversation, the rich man cries out, "Father Abraham," and Abraham replies, "Child, remember." Even in this desperate scene in the parable, there is possibility of God's all-encompassing grace and redemption as the man is enfolded into the Abrahamic promise, father and child, because with God, all things are possible. At the end of the parable, this rich man finally has compassion on someone, his brothers. He thinks about his brothers, and he begs Abraham to send Lazarus back from the dead. But Abraham says, if they don't listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced that if someone rises from the dead. Now that phrase, Moses and the prophets, it refers to the morals and the teachings that we find in Hebrew scriptures, the will of God, the compassion and the love that we have for one another, how we care for the poor and the marginalized of society. Jennifer recently shared an interview with Father Greg Boyle, who started Homeboy Industries, which began in 1988 as a way of improving the lives of former gang members in East Los Angeles. And in that interview, Father Boyle asked this question: why aren't we in awe of what the poor are carrying, rather than judging how they carry it? Who is lying at our gate when we're sumptuously feasting every day? Whose open sores are we ignoring every day? If we don't listen to the will of God, and will we be convinced even though we know that Christ rose from the dead? It's time to make a name for ourselves, to see each other as God's children, to see each other as siblings, to see each other as children of God who live with compassion, with grace and mercy, love for the poor, the migrant, the outcast, and for one another. We need to encourage each other to slow down just a little bit, to take life one step at a time, to love each other, to recognize and respect each other, to act with compassion and love, and to listen to the will of God. May it be so. Amen.